Reborn, I am exhausted. When my wife, the woman I guarded for 10 years, once again cried her heart out over that blonde kid, I didn't go mad like I did in my last life. I only handed her a tissue. I wish you happiness. Because I knew that in the corner of that crowd, there was another foolish girl who had waited for me for 2 lifetimes. Enough. Ethan, are you done yet? The sharp female voice stabbed into my eardrum like a steel needle. Before me, my wife Luna, the woman I loved and protected for 10 years, stared at me with a look I had never seen before, a mix of disgust and contempt. In front of her, protecting her, was a man with garish blonde hair named Jake. A faint, ambiguous sneer tugged at Jake's mouth. His gaze toward me was full of the triumphant arrogance of a victor. I stood frozen, my mind blank. Isn't this the scene from 10 years ago? At Luna's company celebration party, she drunk too much and acted intimately with his colleague Jake. I had merely stepped forward to support her home. Jake deliberately stuck out his foot to trip me. I stumbled into him, and he fell to the floor, shouting that I had hit him. And so this scene unfolded. Luna, without asking any questions, pinned all the blame on me, claiming I was petty and making a fuss, humiliating her in public. In my last life, I completely lost it right here. Like an enraged beast, I lunged forward and wrestled with Jake, creating a chaotic scene. As a result, I was labeled a drunken troublemaker and escorted out by the hotel security guard Mike. And Luna, from beginning to end, never once looked at me. From that day, our relationship plunged. She began meeting Jake frequently under the pretense of colleague exchange, and grew increasingly cold toward me. I was crazily jealous, using every means to try to break them up, but all it earned me was deeper disgust from Luna and more triumphant mockery from Jake. I played the clown in a one-man show, and in the end, I pushed Luna farther and farther away until she fell into Jake's arms. On the day of the divorce, Luna didn't even show up. She merely had the lawyer Daniel deliver the agreement. I left with nothing and became the laughingstock of our circle. Later, I learned that everything I thought I'd built with my bare hands, the billion-dollar Johnson Corporation, had always had the shadow of the Bennett family behind it. And the Bennett family's ICCO, Chloe, whom I had only met a few times at business gatherings and hardly exchanged words with, turned out to be my former fiancée. It was she who anonymously invested the first funds in my early startup days. It was she who, when Luna and Jake conspired to suppress me and my company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy, used the Bennett family's power to shield me from all open and covert attacks. It was she who, after my divorce, when I was broken and drowning myself in drink, silently followed behind me and time after time dragged me out of the mud of bars. Yet because of my obsession with Luna, I never once looked back at her. In the end, to get revenge on Jake, I engineered a business trap, but he turned it on me. I accumulated enormous debts in US dollars and ended up in prison. In prison, I learned from the visiting lawyer Daniel that Chloe, to save me, had broken with her family, sold all the assets under her name, and even agreed to a politically arranged marriage to raise money. The day I died in prison, I heard she was holding a wedding. Endless regret and pain washed over me like a tide. If I could live my life over again. Ethan, I'm talking to you. Are you mute? Luna's impatient prodding pulled me back from the abyss of memories. I looked at her, still beautiful but written all over with impatience. Looked at the smug blonde behind her, then at the onlookers eager for a spectacle. Everything was exactly the same as 10 years ago. Only my heart could no longer be stirred. Tired, truly tired. Last life, I gave everything to love and fight for it, and in the end my family was destroyed and I lost everything. This life, I just want to lie flat and live a comfortable life. I pulled at the corner of my mouth and showed a smile that even I felt was unfamiliar. I didn't rush over to question her like I did last time. Instead, I took a pack of tissues from my pocket, pulled one out, and handed it to Luna. The floor is cold. Stop crying. My voice was calm, so calm it was as if I were talking about something completely unrelated to me. Luna froze. Jake froze. Everyone around who had been ready to watch the show froze too. Their imagined scene of fighting, yelling, in a big scene, none of it happened. I walked around them to a corner of the banquet hall where a figure had been standing quietly since a moment ago. The light was slightly dim, but I recognized her at once. Sophia. The foolish girl who had silently given me 10 years in the last life and whom I had broken completely. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair draped over her shoulders, her face carrying a touch of baby fat in just the right amount, pure and sweet-looking. Right now, she watched me with worry, clutching a small first aid kit in her hands that probably contained plasters and disinfectant. It had been the same last life. After security guard Mike had dragged me out, she had chased after me with that first aid kit, awkwardly trying to dress my wounds, only for me to shove her away. Back then, my heart was full of Luna's betrayal. I couldn't see anyone else's concern. Thinking of it now felt like an invisible hand clenching my heart so hard I could hardly breathe. I stepped toward her, each step feeling like treading on a blade. The surrounding noise seemed to recede. In my world, there remained only her clear, worried eyes. When Sophia saw me approaching, she grew noticeably nervous, clutching the kit tighter and involuntarily taking a step back. Ethan, are you okay? I have plasters. Her voice was thin as a mosquito, with a barely perceptible tremor. I stopped in front of her and looked at her steadily. 2 lives lived, and for the first time I saw her face so clearly. So this is how beautiful she is. Not the bright, showy kind of beauty Luna had, but a gentle, tranquil beauty like a mountain spring. I looked at her and suddenly smiled. Amid the astonished gazes of everyone, I spoke to the girl I had wronged in my past life, solemnly and clearly. Sophia, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? The banquet hall fell into an instant hush. Time seemed to stop at that moment. All eyes fixed on me, full of shock, incomprehension, and a hint of pity as if I had gone mad. Luna's face went deathly pale. She probably thought I was using this to get back at her or to provoke her. Jake's smug grin froze, replaced by the annoyance of someone who'd had the spotlight stolen. And Sophia, in front of me, was completely stupefied. Her clear almond eyes went round, her mouth slightly open, staring at me blankly as if she had just heard the most outrageous story. The first aid kit in her hand hit the floor with a clatter, scattering Band-Aids and cotton swabs everywhere. She stammered, her cheeks flushing visibly red, the color spreading up to her ears and even tinting her fair neck with a pretty pink. Seeing her so adorably stunned, the gloom that had weighed on me for 2 lifetimes felt as if sunlight had crept in, softened at the edges. I bent down, picked up the items one by one, placed them back into the small kit, and handed it back to her. My fingertips brushed the back of her hand unintentionally, warm and soft. Her hand recoiled as if burned. I looked up and met her wide, panic-stricken doe-like eyes, and repeated myself seriously. I'm not joking, Sophia. I'm serious. My voice was low but carried clearly through the quiet banquet hall. Ethan, are you crazy? Luna reacted first. She rushed over and grabbed my arm, her pretty face twisted by anger. To get back at me, you go this far? You couldn't pick anyone else but her. Her tone dripped with haughty superiority, and her look at Sophia was openly contemptuous. Sophia came from an ordinary family. She was merely delicate in appearance. In Luna's eyes, a favored daughter of heaven, Sophia probably didn't even qualify as a foil. Sophia shrank back at the look, instinctively stepping away to avoid the storm. A pang hit me. I stepped forward and, without making it obvious, positioned myself between Sophia and Luna, blocking Luna's sight. I gently pried Luna's hand off my arm, my tone even. Luna, we're over. Who I'm with has nothing to do with you. Over? Who said it's over? Luna sounded as if I told a joke. We're just quarreling. You're just throwing a tantrum, right? Ethan, stop this. Come home with me. She tried to take my hand again. Her voice softened, tinged with her usual coquettishness. In the past, whenever she did that, no matter how angry I was, I'd surrender immediately. But now I only felt irony. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. No, I'm not throwing a tantrum. I looked her in the eyes and spoke each word deliberately. I said we're over. From now on, you walk your sunny road. I'll walk my single log bridge. Then I turned to the still stunned Sophia and reached out my hand, my voice softer than I had expected. Will you give me a chance? Sophia looked at my outstretched hand, then at Luna beside us, face ashen, and her small face twisted in conflict. She bit her lower lip, as if wrestling with a fierce inner battle. I knew this choice was agonizing for her. On one side was the man she had admired for so long. On the other, a radiant, well-born rival. Saying yes meant bearing pressure from Luna, perhaps from the whole circle. In a last life, she couldn't bear it and quietly walked away. This time, I would not let her face it alone. Just when I thought she'd retreat like before, she suddenly lifted her head. In her clear eyes flickered a light I'd never seen. The light called courage. She took a deep breath, as if resolving something monumental, and then, under everyone's incredulous gaze, gently placed her soft little hand into my palm. I am willing. Her voice was still very soft, but like a thunderclap, it exploded in everyone's ears. My heart at that moment pounded wildly. I gripped her hand tightly, as if holding the whole world. Luna's complexion shifted instantly from white to green, then to purple, a full display. She probably never dreamed that Sophia, whom she'd always treated as background, whose name she couldn't even remember, would dare to steal her man in public. Sophia, do you know what you're doing? Luna's voice was so sharp it nearly pierced eardrums. She pointed at Sophia, trembling with anger. He's my man. Who do you think you are? Sophia shrank back from her shout, but she didn't let go of my hand. I could feel the sweat in her palm and a slight tremor. I wrapped her small hand in my palm, gave her a reassuring look, then turned to Luna, my expression cold. Luna, watch your words. First, I am not your man. Second, I am the one pursuing Sophia. She didn't come after me. I paused, glancing at Jake behind her who hadn't said a word since earlier, and a smirk tugged at my mouth. If you're really so worried about your man, maybe you should mind the one behind you. After all, I don't want to be treated as part of your little play. My tone wasn't loud, but the message was heavy. The crowd immediately burst into suppressed murmurs. What do you mean? Luna's involved with that blonde guy. I always thought something was off with them. Always clingy, more intimate than a couple. So Ethan got cheated on and then immediately fell for someone else? This plot twist is too much. Luna's face went deathly pale. She could accept people calling her spoiled and willful, but never that her private life was loose. That would destroy her perfect heiress image. You're lying. Ethan, you're slandering me out of revenge, she shouted in a panic. Whether I'm lying or not, you know in your heart. I was done arguing and tugged Sophia to turn and leave. Let's go. You're not allowed to leave. Jake suddenly rushed forward, blocking our path. He glared at me viciously, his eyes full of hatred. Ethan, say what you mean. You're defaming us. I'll sue you. Looks like my words hit a nerve with him too. Suing me? I sounded amused. Fine, I'll play along anytime. But I suggest you find a decent lawyer and look up the elements of defamation. Oh, I can even kindly provide some free evidence, like the hotel surveillance footage or you're in Luna's normal colleague communication chat logs. Jake's expression changed instantly. He knew better than anyone the dirty dealings between him and Luna. If I really exposed those things, the unlucky ones wouldn't be just Luna. He pointed at me, trying to act fierce. You dare. Do you think I wouldn't? I sneered, ignored him, and walked straight for the exit with Sophia. This time, no one dared stop us. Behind us was Luna's frantic crying and the crowd's rising chatter, like a noisy, absurd farce. But I didn't care anymore. Holding the girl beside me, I stepped out of that cage that had once caused me so much pain toward my own new life. As we passed through the hotel doors, the evening breeze brought a touch of coolness, and my taut nerves finally eased a little. Sophia beside me kept her head bowed, silent. I stopped and looked at her. Regret it. She shook her head violently, lifted her face to me, her eyes rimmed red. No, I just feel like I'm dreaming. She watched me cautiously, a thread of uncertainty in her voice. Ethan, do you really like me? Not just because you had a fight with Luna and wanted to spite her. I looked into her anxious eyes and felt another pang in my chest. This silly girl, even now, still worrying that I might be using her. I raised my hand, wanting to liken the last life, stroke her head, and give her some comfort. But halfway there I froze. What right do I have now to touch her? I withdrew my hand and looked at her solemnly. Sophia, listen to me. Before I was blind, my heart was blind too, and I missed many important things. But now I see clearly and I understand. I have no feelings left for Luna. When I say I like you, I mean it truly from my heart. I took a deep breath and continued. I know you might find it hard to believe me now. That's okay. Time will prove everything. I won't force you to accept me right away, but I hope you'll give me a chance to pursue you. A chance to start over. Sophia stared at me steadily, and finally the tears she had held back fell, drop by drop. But this time, they were not from grievance or fear. They carried a touch of joy and relief. She nodded vigorously, her voice thick with a nasal sob. That simple sound felt like a key, unlocking the door to my heart that had been sealed for 2 lifetimes. I looked at her, cute with tears on her cheeks, and couldn't help smiling. I took a tissue from my pocket. This time it was to wipe her tears away. All right, don't cry. If you keep crying, it'll mess up your looks. I awkwardly tried to comfort her like a domineering CEO in a TV drama. She let out a snort laugh, tears still clinging to her lashes, looking both adorable and pitiful. I'll take you home, I said. She nodded. I drove steadily through the night. The car was quiet except for soft music. I stole a glance at Sophia. She had her head tilted, watching the streets blur past the window, a faint flush on her face, the corners of her mouth slightly upturned, lost in thought about who knows what. Peaceful times. Those words slipped into my mind without warning. So happiness can be this simple. No need for grand gestures or public attention. Having her by my side is enough. Soon we were downstairs at Sophia's building. An ordinary, old neighborhood. I stopped the car and unbuckled her seatbelt. We're here. She responded, but didn't get out right away. She kept her head down, fiddling with her fingers. The atmosphere suddenly turned a bit intimate. Seeing her flushed earlobes, I felt my heart stir and couldn't help leaning closer. She seemed to sense my intention. Her body stiffened instantly. Her breath halted. I drew nearer and nearer, close enough to smell the faint scent of her shampoo, fresh and pleasant. Just as my lips were about to touch her cheek, she turned her head suddenly and closed her eyes. My kiss landed on her lips. Soft, sweet, like cotton candy. My brain exploded with a boom. Isn't this developing a bit too fast? I had only meant to kiss her cheek, and yet, Sophia clearly didn't expect this either. Her lashes fluttered like startled butterflies, trembling wildly, her body rigid as a stone. I could feel my heart racing as if it would leap out of my throat. This was the first time I'd felt like this in 2 lifetimes. Nervous, exhilarated, with a trace of an indescribable sweetness. The kiss lasted only a few seconds. I came to my senses first and jumped back as if electrocuted. So sorry, I stammered, my cheeks burning fiercely. Heaven knows, for someone who had lived 2 lifetimes and once ruled a multi-billion-dollar business empire, to be thrown into such turmoil over a single kiss was humiliating. Sophia also sprung awake, covering her mouth like a frightened little rabbit, flung the car door open and ran out, not looking back as she dashed into the stairwell. Watching her retreating figure, I smacked my forehead in frustration. I messed up. I'm such an idiot. I slumped back in the seat, my thoughts a jumbled mess. Would she think I was a flirtatious playboy? Would she form a bad impression of me because of it? The more I thought, the more agitated I became. I couldn't help but roll down the window and light a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, I seemed to see my past self again. The fool who, for Luna, was betrayed by all, and finally met a miserable death in prison. No, I can't repeat the same mistake. This time, I must seize the happiness that belongs to me. I stubbed out the cigarette, took out my phone, and opened Sophia's star chat. Her avatar was an adorable ragdoll cat, soft and cute like her. I stared at that avatar for a long time before summoning the courage to type a line. Me. Sorry, I was too impulsive tonight. Sent. Then began the long wait. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Her chat window never showed typing. My heart sank little by little. She really was angry. Just as I was about to give up and plan to apologize in person tomorrow, my phone dinged. Sophia had replied. Sofia Kute. No. Just 3 short words, and I felt instantly revived. I hurriedly asked again. Me? Then why did you run so fast? Sophia cute. I was shy. Seeing those 3 words made me laugh aloud. So she was shy. That silly girl was unbelievably cute. The weight lifted from my chest, and my fingers typed more lightly. Me. So, you don't hate that kiss, right? After sending it, I thought I was being too blunt and considered deleting it, but her message came back. Sofia Kute. No, I don't hate it. She added a blushing emoji. Looking at that emoji, I could almost picture her hiding under the covers, face aflame with embarrassment. My heart completely melted into a puddle. Me. That's good. Sleep early, good night. Sophia cute, good night. The chat ended, but I couldn't sleep at all. I leaned in the car and reread our messages, a smile unconsciously curling my mouth. So this is what being in love feels like. Sweet. On the other side, Sophia returned home, leaning against the door, her heart still pounding. Her cheeks were hot, her mind full of that unexpected kiss. His lips were even softer than she'd imagined. His breath carried a faint tobacco scent, surprisingly pleasant. Yeah. She covered her face and let out a silent scream, then spun around the living room like a little top several times before finally calming down. She took out her phone and opened Ethan's StarChat avatar. It was a side profile photo of him in a suit, sharp-featured and outrageously handsome. She had secretly saved that photo for a long time. She opened Moments again and saw Ethan's latest post from half an hour ago. There was only one picture, an old apartment building at night. The caption read, "A new beginning." Sophia recognized that building at a glance. It was her home. Her heart felt like it was filled with honey, so sweet it was about to overflow. He really meant it. The next day, I got up early. Facing the mirror, I carefully shaved and changed into a clean set of casual clothes. Looking at the radiant, spirited version of myself in the mirror, I nodded in satisfaction. Yes, this is how a young man should look. In my last life, I lived too hard, always in suits and behaving stiffly in public, like a greasy middle-aged man. This life, I'm going to live for myself. I drove straight to the city's most upscale mall. If I wanted to pursue a girl, I couldn't show up empty-handed. What do girls like? Bags, makeup, jewelry? I stood before rows of dazzling luxury goods and felt at a loss. In my previous life, I'd bought Luna countless things like these, but now I couldn't remember what Sophia would like. I only recalled that she seemed to really like animals. Her profile picture on Xingsun was also a cat. Right, a cat. My eyes lit up, and I turned into a pet store next to the mall. Half an hour later, I walked out holding a carrier, completely satisfied. Inside was a 3-month-old ragdoll cat with blue eyes like 2 clear gems. So cute it melted your heart. I named it Machi. I hope my relationship with Sophia could be like Machi, sticky and sweet. I drove, carrying my wingman Machi, straight to Sophia's place. Standing downstairs at her building, I held the carrier, took a deep breath, and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by a kind-looking middle-aged dandy, probably Sophia's mother, Margaret. She froze when she saw me, then broke into a warm smile. "Oh my, you must be Ethan, right? Come in. I was a bit surprised. She actually knew me. Margaret ushered me in, poured tea, brought out fruit, her hospitality making me slightly overwhelmed. "Auntie, you know me?" "Of course I do." Margaret smiled, so broadly her mouth couldn't close. "Our Sophia keeps talking about you every day, My ears are about to get calloused. I was stunned. Talking about me every day? At that moment, Sophia rushed out of her room, her face as red as a ripe apple. "Mom, what are you saying?" she said while sneaking an irritated glare at her mother. Margaret pretended not to notice and chirped, "I'm not making this up. Don't you stare at Ethan's photos all the time and say oops." Margaret hadn't finished when Sophia stepped on her foot. Watching the mother and daughter interact, I couldn't help laughing. So this silly girl had already kept me in her heart. "Mr. George, Mrs. Margaret, hello. I'm Ethan, Sophia's boyfriend. I upgraded suitor straight to boyfriend." Sophia turned even redder and kept her head down, not daring to look at me. George stood up from the sofa. He wore glasses and looked gentle, but his appraisal carried a hint of scrutiny. "Sit down." His tone was neither cold nor warm. My heart skipped a beat. I knew this was the test for my future father-in-law. I set the travel crate on the floor and opened the door. Little Machi poked a small head out with a meow, curiously taking in the new surroundings. "Wow, what cute cat." Sophia's eyes lit up. She instantly threw shyness aside, crouched down, and carefully picked Machi up. Machi seemed to like her too, rubbing its little head against her cheek and making a soft purr-purr sound. Margaret came over as well, her face full of affection. "Oh my, this kitten is so beautiful. What's its name?" "Machi," I said. "It's a gift for Sophia." "For me?" Sophia looked up, surprised and delighted. I nodded. "I saw your Star News avatar and figured you must love cats, so I took the liberty. I hope you like it." "I love it. I love it so much." Sophia hugged Machi, smiling with eyes curved like crescents, like a child who's just received her favorite toy. Seeing her smile, I felt that no amount of money spent was wasted. George watched the scene. His expression softened slightly, but he still didn't relent. He cleared his throat and asked, "Ethan, I heard from Sophia you used to be in a relationship with that Clark family daughter, Luna?" Here it comes. The main issue. I sat up straight and met his gaze calmly. "Yes, Mr. George, but that was in the past. Right now, I only want to be with Sophia." "Oh," George pushed up his glasses. "What makes us believe you're not acting on impulse? A family like the Clarks isn't comparable to an ordinary family like ours. You can give up everything for our Sophia today. What if tomorrow you give her up for another her?" His words were sharp and hit the mark. It was my greatest worry as well. I was silent for a moment, then took something from my pocket and placed it on the coffee table. It was a share transfer agreement. "Mr. George, these are the shares of all the companies under my name. I've already authorized my lawyer Daniel to transfer them all into Sophia's name." My voice wasn't loud, but it was like a bomb going off in the small living room. The three Taylors were stunned. George held the agreement, his hand trembling. Though he was only a university professor, he understood the weight of that document. Ethan, as a rising business figure, already had a net worth exceeding tens of billions of dollars. Those thin sheets of paper represented wealth an ordinary family could not imagine in several lifetimes. And now he was going to give all that to his daughter? What do you mean by this? George's voice changed tone. "I mean, I'm willing to give everything I have in exchange for a chance to spend the rest of my life with Sophia." I looked into Sophia's eyes and spoke earnestly. "Money can be earned again, but some people, once missed, can never be found. It took me a lifetime to understand that. So in this life, I don't want to miss her again." To others, my words might sound cloying or insincere, but only I knew this was my truest feeling. In my last life, I had all the world's wealth, but lost the only person who truly loved me. Those cold numbers brought only fleeting vanity. What remained was endless emptiness and regret. This life, I can have nothing else. I only want her. Silence filled the living room. Sophia held Machi, staring at me blankly, her eyes reddening again. George looked at the agreement in his hands and remained silent for a long time. Margaret glanced at me, then at her daughter. The worry in her eyes gradually turned into relief. After a long while, George finally let out a long sigh. He pushed the agreement back toward me. "We can't accept this. but we appreciate the gesture." He looked at me, and his gaze finally softened. "Young man, the road is long. Don't risk everything you have on one woman. Sophia isn't the sword to chase wealth. We've seen how well you treat her." He paused, then continued, "I only have this one daughter. I raised her like a treasure. I hope you will treat her sincerely and not let her suffer." Those words were, without a doubt, their approval of my relationship with Sophia. The heavy stone in my chest finally dropped. I stood up and bowed deeply to George and Margaret. "Mr. George, Mrs. Margaret, rest assured. I, Ethan, swear here and now that in this life I will never fail Sophia." My voice was firm and strong. When I left the Taylor family, it was already dark. Sophia walked me down to the building entrance. We walked side by side under the dim streetlights of the neighborhood, neither of us speaking. Near the car, she suddenly stopped. "Ethan, that agreement, is it real?" she asked quietly. "Of course it's real. Why did you do that?" I turned to look at her. In the moonlight, her face seemed wrapped in a hazy glow, unreal in its beauty. I couldn't help reaching out and gently brushing her cheek. "Because, to me, you are 10,000 times more important than those things." Her body trembled slightly. The light in her eyes outshone the stars. She suddenly rose on her tiptoes and planted a soft peck on my lips. Then, like a startled fawn, she turned and ran. I stood there stunned, touching my lips where her soft touch and sweet scent still lingered. I looked down and smiled. That silly girl had finally figured out. From the day I received her future parents' approval at the Taylor family, Sophia and I officially entered a sweet, passionate relationship. I kept my promise to lie low, handing all of Johnson Corporation's affairs to the few trusted aides I relied on most. There were people I had promoted in my previous life, loyal and unquestionably capable. In my last life, I micromanaged everything, becoming a workaholic and neglecting the people who mattered most. This time, I wanted to spend all my time with Sophia. My daily routine became driving her to and from work, eating with her, watching movies, and shopping. We did the simplest, most romantic things ordinary young couples do. I took her to taste dishes from the world's 8 major cuisines, watching her eat like a little hamster with cheeks puffed, then beam at me satisfied and say, "So good." I brewed foreign fruit wines and malt beer at home and drag her to taste them with me. She couldn't hold her liquor. One small sip would flush her cheeks like apples and make her gaze dreamy. So cute, I couldn't help wanting to pull her into my arms. I also took her to work out with me. I trained strength while she practiced yoga. Every time I finished a set of bench presses and sat up sweating all over, I would always see her standing nearby, her bright eyes full of admiration. Then she'd run over under the pretense of handing me water and sneakily feel my abs. Her small hand would glide across my stomach, sending a shiver through me. I grabbed her hand and lowered my voice, asking in her ear, "Want a touch? I'll give you permission only." Her face flushed in an instant. She tried to pull her hand back, but I held it tighter. I guided her hand down, tracing my V-line. I could feel her breathing quicken. Ethan, stop it, this is the gym." She protested softly, her voice weak and unconvincing. I bent down and kissed her reddened earlobe, smiling lightly. "What are you afraid of?" They wouldn't dare to look. My brazen displays of affection had already spread throughout the whole circle. At first, everyone thought I was just playing around, waiting to see Sophia get dumped. But as time went on, they realized I was serious. I spoiled Sophia rotten. The designer brand she liked. I signed that designer, Olivia Garcia, to my company to serve her alone. The bakery she loved. I bought the whole shop and had it bake the freshest cakes daily, just for her. The company she worked for, I bought it outright, then promoted her and gave her a raise, making her the youngest director there. To outsiders, my actions seemed absurd and crazy. But Sophia never asked me why. Whatever I did, she trusted and supported me unconditionally. She would be happy all day because I bought the entire bakery for her. Not because of how much it was worth, but because she felt it was how I showed my love. She would also feel pressured by my acquisition of her company and then work even harder to prove she deserved the position. She was such a simple and beautiful girl. Her world was very small, small enough to hold only me. And my world became whole because of her. Our love became a celebrated tale in the circle. Those who once mocked us were now left only with envy and hatred, especially Luna. I heard that since that banquet, her relationship with Jake became well known. The Clark family, for the sake of reputation, forced her to cut ties with Jake. But Luna seemed bewitched. She refused to marry anyone but Jake, even going so far as to fall out with her family and move out to live with him. After losing the Clark family as a backing, Jake's career collapsed. He was soon fired. With no income, he grew irritable and violent, often fighting with Luna and even hitting her. Luna had been pampered for over 20 years and was used to this kind of mistreatment. After every fight with Jake, she would come to me. She would cry and tell me she regretted it, that she knew she was wrong, begging me for another chance. At first, I would still meet her and make it clear that we were impossible. But after a while, I was too lazy even to see her. I had my assistant Ryan stop her at the company gate. What you can't get always stirs unrest. The one who is favored becomes brazen. In my past life, I was the one in turmoil. This time it's her. The wheel of fortune turns. How ironic. In sharp contrast to Luna's misery was my success. The companies under my name, managed by a few trusted lieutenants, were thriving. A strange phenomenon even began to appear. The more I lie flat, the more the company's stock price goes crazy. Hashtag Mr. Ethan slept in again today. Hashtag. That topic actually became a viral meme on social platforms. Every morning, countless shareholders wait under my Xingxun account for my assistant Ryan to post my sleeping photo. Whenever the photo goes up, the company's shares inevitably hit the daily limit. They say the deeper I sleep, the steadier the company runs, and that makes them feel reassured. I can't help but laugh and cry about it. These shareholders really know how to play. But it's fine. I enjoy the leisure. It gives me more time to spend with my Sophia. That day, I was watching an old movie with Sophia when my assistant Ryan's call came in. Mr. Johnson, Chloe. Miss Chloe is here. Ryan sounded a little nervous. Miss Chloe? Which Miss Chloe? I paused, then it clicked. Chloe, my former fiancée. Why would she come looking for me? To be honest, my feelings about Chloe were complicated. In my last life, she gave so much for me, and I didn't know until I died. That debt of gratitude weighs like a mountain. In this life, the reason I didn't reach out to her was partly because I didn't want any more emotional entanglements with her, and partly because I knew that with her pride, she would never accept any repayment from me. I only wanted her to live her own life well, and not be dragged down by me, this scumbag. Yet unexpectedly, she still came here. Tell her to come in. I hung up and glanced at Sophia beside me. She looked at me curiously. Who is it? An old acquaintance. I didn't know how to explain my relationship with Chloe to her. Childhood betrothals sound ridiculous when you say them out loud. Soon the office door opened. Chloe walked in. She wore a well-tailored black business suit, her long hair meticulously pinned at the back, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses on her face. The eyes behind the lenses were cold and sharp. She was like a walking iceberg, emanating an aura that kept strangers at bay. She was exactly the same as in my last life. No, there were some differences. When I saw her before, there had always been a lingering sadness in her eyes. Now her gaze held only pure indifference and distance. This was the real her, the woman groomed by the Bennett family as an heir, who regarded all emotions as weaknesses, a business tycoon. Her gaze swept the office, finally landing on Sophia beside me. When she saw Sophia linked lovingly with my arm, a barely perceptible ripple seemed to cross those calm, ancient well eyes. But it passed quickly, and her expression returned to stillness. Mr. Johnson, long time no see. Her voice matched her, cold, without a hint of warmth. Miss Bennett, what a rare guest. Please sit. I nodded toward the sofa opposite. Chloe didn't sit. She took a file from her bag and set on my desk. I'm here today to discuss the cooperation project for the West City plot. The West City plot? I blinked, then remembered. That was a project my company had been bidding for recently. And Bennett Corporation was our biggest competitor. Cooperation? I raised an eyebrow. I thought we're competitors. There are no permanent enemies in business, only permanent interests. Chloe's tone was as flat as if she were reciting. This project is a must-win for the Bennett family. But if we cooperate with you, we can maximize the benefits. It's a win-win. She wasn't wrong. If I teamed up with the Bennett family and landed this project, it would be almost guaranteed. But why would I cooperate with her? My current goal is to lie low, not make money. I was about to refuse when Sophia, beside me, suddenly gave my arm a gentle squeeze. I turned to look at her. She gave me a meaningful glance, then stood up and flashed a sweet smile at Chloe. Miss Bennett, hello, my name is Sophia. I'm Ethan's girlfriend. She reached out her hand first. Chloe froze for a moment, as if she hadn't expected such a bold move. After hesitating a bit, she extended her hand and gave Sophia a light shake. Hello. Her hand was cold, like her. Miss Bennett, please sit. Would you like something to drink? Coffee or tea? Sophia greeted her warmly like a hostess. No need. Chloe's tone remained cold. Don't be so formal. Sophia, without asking, lightly pushed her down onto the couch and then turned to the tea room. The office was left with just Chloe and me. The atmosphere was awkward. I didn't know what to say. Chloe stayed silent, sitting upright like an exquisite ice sculpture. After a long while, she finally spoke again, her voice carrying a faint, hard-to-detect, complex emotion. She is the one you chose. I knew she meant Sophia. I nodded. Yes. Why? No reason. She's just the one. My answer was simple and direct. Chloe fell silent. The hand at her lap unconsciously clenched into a fist. I knew my answer must have hurt her. From what I knew of her last life, she was an extremely proud and confident person. She couldn't understand how someone like her, a favored daughter of heaven, could lose to an ordinary girl like Sophia. In a last life, she never managed to ask that question before she died. This life, she finally asked, but the answer I gave wasn't what she wanted. Just as the atmosphere froze to the point of ice, Sophia came back and carrying a steaming something. Miss Bennett, try this osmanthus-flavored foreign sweet wine I made myself. Warm you up. She set a delicate little porcelain cup down in front of Chloe. Chloe stared at the cup of fragrant sweet wine, stunned. Everyone in the circle knew she didn't drink anything alcoholic. She thought Sophia was deliberately making things difficult for her. Her expression darkened, and she was about to snap when Sophia, as if seeing through her thoughts, said cheerfully, Miss Bennett, don't misunderstand. This sweet wine is homemade. The alcohol content is very low, lower than yogurt. And I'll let you in on a secret, I added lots and lots of sugar. It's super sweet. As she spoke, she playfully winked. A crack appeared in Chloe's expression. She looked at the girl in front of her who was smiling with an innocent face, glanced at the steaming cup giving off osmanthus and glutinous rice scents, and as if compelled, picked it up. She took a light sip. Sweet, soft, with a hint of osmanthus fragrance. The taste was actually pretty good. Well, good, right? Sophia watched her expectantly. Chloe put down her cup without speaking, only quietly taking another sip. Watching this, I suddenly understood Sophia's intention. She wasn't asserting ownership nor trying to flatter Chloe. She was simply, in her own way, trying to defuse the awkwardness. She saw Chloe's outward coldness, and she saw my discomfort in front of Chloe. So she used a cup of sweet wine to try to melt that iceberg and to break the stalemate between us. That silly girl was always so kind, so considerate. I looked at her, the love in my eyes almost spilling over, and that scene happened to fall into Chloe's view. The hand holding the cup paused slightly. Behind her lenses, those eyes flashed a complex emotion I couldn't read. Perhaps envy, perhaps jealousy, or perhaps relief. She drank the sweet wine in the cup in one gulp, then stood up. I left the cooperation proposal here. Mr. Johnson can look it over when he has time. I have something to do. I'll be going now. She said that, turned, and left without a trace of hesitation. At the door, she suddenly stopped, looked back at Sophia. The sweet wine was very good. Thank you. With that, she opened the door and left without looking back. The office fell silent again. Sophia came to my side and asked uncertainly, "Did I mess up?" I smiled, pulled her into my arms, and hugged her tightly. "No, you did great. My Sophia is the best girl in the whole world." She nuzzled in my arms like a content little cat. "That's good. I just thought she looked a bit unhappy and wanted her to drink something sweet to feel better." My heart softened and I kissed the top of her head. That fool. Chloe's unhappiness stemmed from me. No matter how much sweet you give her, what use is it? However, after today, I was even more certain of one thing. My choice was not wrong. Sophia was the one worth spending my life protecting. As for Chloe, let us each find our own peace. I thought my interactions with Chloe would end there. Unexpectedly, 3 days later, her assistant Lisa Thompson called me. "Mr. Johnson, Miss Bennett has agreed to all your terms. The cooperation agreement has been drafted. Would you like to come by to sign?" I held the phone, completely baffled. When did I make any demands? I clearly wanted to refuse. Okay? Before I could explain, the caller had already hung up. I stared at my phone, laughing and crying at the same time. What on earth was this? I turned to look at Sophia beside me, carefully grooming Machi. "Sophia, the West City Project. Bennett Corporation agreed to cooperate with us." "Really? That's wonderful," Sophia said happily. "I told you that Miss Bennett seems cold, but she's actually nice." "Me? My silly girl. How did you come to that conclusion?" "Oh well, since she said so, let's cooperate. Besides, the company affairs are handled by my trusted people, and I'm happy to be free of it." On the day of signing, I saw Chloe again. She still wore that iceberg face, as if the woman who had drunk the sweet wine and shown that complicated look was only my illusion. She didn't say a word during the whole signing process. After signing, she left immediately, cold to the extreme. I watched her walk away, feeling like something was off. The project kicked off quickly. Since it was a collaboration between two companies, there were inevitably frequent meetings. And as the heads of the two companies, Chloe and I naturally became the main participants in every meeting. So I was forced to end my laid-back life and started going in and out of the office frequently. My overachieving subordinates welcomed it enthusiastically. They thought the boss was finally being ambitious. Only I knew how reluctant I really was. To finish meetings as quickly as possible so I could go home to my wife, I solved every issue at lightning speed each time. As a result, in the eyes of the employees at the partner company Bennett Corporation, I left an image of being decisive and efficient. Chloe had no comment, but I noticed her eyes toward me growing stranger and stranger. It was a look mixed with curiosity, inquiry, and a trace of admiration. The thought startled me. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. After all, she was Chloe. Until one time after a meeting, when everyone else left and only she and I remained in the conference room. She suddenly said, "You've changed a lot." I paused, putting away my things, and looked up at her. "Have I? She nodded, pushed up her glasses. "You used to be very capable, but too sharp, always eager for results. Now you're much steadier and harder to read." I smiled. "People change. Is it because of her?" she asked abruptly. I knew she was talking about Sophia again. I didn't deny it. "You could say that." She fell silent for a moment, then suddenly took something out of her bag. "A lunchbox? I made a little extra today. If you don't mind, want to try?" She pushed the lunchbox toward me, eyes a little evasive, her cheeks seeming slightly flushed. I glanced down at the lunchbox. It was pink with a cute rabbit illustration on it. This style didn't suit her at all. I opened it. Inside were several delicate side dishes and a small dessert, a rabbit-shaped pudding. I was stunned. Was this still the Chloe I knew, who in the past couldn't even enter a kitchen? How could she cook and make something so adorable? I picked up my chopsticks and tried a bite. The taste was actually pretty good. Not as good as what I made, but impressive for a beginner. I tried the rabbit pudding. It melted in my mouth, sweet but not cloying. "How is it?" she asked nervously, looking at me like a student waiting for the teacher's grade. "Pretty tasty," I praised sincerely. Her eyes immediately brightened and the corners of her mouth lifted. For a moment, the frost on her face seemed to melt, revealing a rare, girlish, shy delight. I suddenly realized something. Could it be she had fallen for me? The idea sounded absurd to me. But in the days that followed, her actions made me more and more think my guess might be true. She began frequently bringing me these lovingly made bento boxes, each with different dishes and desserts, but all in a cutesy style. She used work discussions as an excuse to invite me to meals and movies. She anonymously donated to the animal rescue shelter I often visited. She even started smiling at me in a way Sophia used to. Although her smile was worse than her frown, I was utterly panicked. This plot is all wrong. Wasn't he supposed to be the cold CEO who would regret it forever and watch us live happily from afar? How did he turn into the one taking the initiative? I tried to keep my distance and politely declined all her invitations. But she was like a piece of chewing gum. You couldn't shake her off. Until one day, she cornered me in the underground parking garage. "Ethan, why have you been avoiding me?" She wore a white dress, no glasses, light makeup, softer looking than usual. But her gaze was unusually persistent. "Miss Bennett, I think our relationship is just a professional one," I reminded her tactfully. "Just professional?" She stepped closer and stared into my eyes. "Then why did you defend her at the banquet? Why did you give her your entire fortune? Why? When you look at her, do you have that gentle look?" There was a barely noticeable tremor and grievance in her voice. I was at a loss for words. "I investigated you." She took a deep breath as if making a decision. "I know you broke up with Luna. I also know you and Sophia have only just begun. If that's the case, why can't it be me? Ethan, I like you. I've liked you for a long time. Since we were betrothed as children, I've liked you." Her words were like one explosion after another in my ear. I was completely stunned. Betrothed as children? How young would that have been? Why do I have no memory of it? "I know you might not remember," she smiled bitterly. "We were very young. Once some older kids bullied me, and you stood up like a little hero and drove them off. From that day, I couldn't let anyone else into my heart. Later we grew up, and Luna was by your side. I could only watch you from afar silently. I thought as long as you were happy, it would be fine. But she didn't cherish you at all. She let you suffer so much." I looked at her reddened eyes and that face full of unwillingness and love, feeling a jumble of emotions. I finally understood why in my previous life she went that far for me. That seemingly absurd childhood betrothal had, in her heart, taken root, sprouted, and grown into a towering tree. And I had known nothing about it. How cruel. "Chloe," I said with difficulty. "I am sorry." Beyond sorry, I didn't know what else to say. "I don't want your sorry." She suddenly grew agitated, stepped forward and grabbed my arm. "Ethan, give me one more chance, please. I promise I'll do better than Sophia. I can give you everything she can give. What she can't give you, I can. The Bennett family, wealth, status, whatever you want, I can give you." Seeing her verge on madness stabbed at my heart. I gently pried her hand away and spoke slowly, word by word. "Chloe, you're wonderful. You're perfect in every way. It's just that the person I love isn't you. The person I love, from beginning to end, has only ever been Sophia." My words were like the sharpest blade, driving deep in her heart. The color drained from her face instantly. She staggered back 2 steps and pressed against the cold car to steady herself. She looked at me, and the light in her eyes went out little by little. "WHY?" Her voice was as light as a feather. "Just because she met you before me?" I shook my head. "It's not about who came first. It's because she's Sophia. When I'm tired, she gives me a hug. When I'm happy, she's happier than I am. Whatever I cook, whether it's good or not, she eats it all. She remembers all my little unconscious habits and can be moved for a long time by the smallest thing I do. She may not be perfect, not clever, even a little silly, but her love for me is pure, unstained by anything else. And that love is something you, Luna, or anyone else could not give me. Chloe, let go. Go find a happiness that truly belongs to you." I finished speaking, turned, and left without a shred of regret. Behind me came her suppressed, breaking sobs. I knew I was cruel. But better a short pain than a long one. Some people, some things once missed are missed forever. In both my lives, I owe her too much. But when it comes to love, I cannot give it. Because my heart has long been wholly taken by that silly girl named Sophia. Ever since I made things clear in the parking lot that day, Chloe never appeared before me again. She handed the West Side project entirely over to the deputy general manager. I heard she applied to the family to be transferred to an overseas branch. Maybe she wanted a change of scenery, to start anew. That's fine. I sincerely hope she can find the happiness that belongs to her. As for Sophia and me, after that little episode, our relationship only grew stronger. She seemed to sense something, but she never asked. She just became clingier than before. Like a kitten afraid its owner will be taken away, wanting to be on me 24 hours a day. I relished it. That day was Sophia's birthday. I secretly planned a grand proposal. I rented out the entire amusement park and arranged 9,999 roses into a heart-shaped C. That night, I took her onto the Ferris wheel opened only for the two of us. When the wheel slowly rose to its highest point, the city's night view lay before us. On the ground, countless fireworks simultaneously burst, spelling out Sophia, marry me in the sky. Sophia covered her mouth, looking at it all in surprise, tears in her eyes like pearls on a broken string. I went down on one knee and took out the ring I had prepared for a long time, engraved with both our fingerprints. Sophia, I know I'm not a perfect lover. I was blind and heartless before and missed you once. Thank heavens for giving me a second chance so I could take your hand again. I don't have many flowery words. I just want to tell you that I want to walk the road ahead with you. Your joys, your sorrows, everything about you, I'll bear it. So, Miss Sophia, will you marry me and let me take care of you for the rest of your life? My voice trembled slightly from nervousness. Sophia had already been reduced to a tear-streaked mess. She choked and couldn't speak, only nodding hard. I excitedly slipped the ring onto her ring finger, then stood and pulled her into a tight embrace. I love you, Sophia. I love you too, Ethan. At the Ferris wheel's highest point, beneath the brilliant fireworks, we kissed deeply, as if trying to fold the loves of 2 lifetimes into that kiss. Our wedding was simple and warm. We didn't invite many people, only our closest family and friends. On the wedding day, Sophia wore the dress I had designed for her. She looked like an angel fallen to earth. When she linked arms with George and walked step by step toward me, it felt like I was seeing the most beautiful sight in the world. George placed her hand into mine, his eyes rimmed with red. Ethan, I entrust my precious daughter to you. You must treat her well. Mr. George, you can rest assured. I solemnly took his hand, and with it, took on her life. In front of everyone, we exchanged rings and made vows for a lifetime. The wedding over, I brought Sophia back to our new home. It was a villa I had designed myself, the yard planted with the flowers and plants she loved. There was also a ragdoll cat named Machi and a golden retriever I later bought to keep it company, called Bubbles. Machi and Bubbles registered before we did. They clung to each other every day, inseparable. Wedding night, I held my goddess-like bride, yet felt as nervous as a green youth. Though we had already consummated our marriage earlier, tonight felt especially significant. Sophia seemed even more nervous than I was. Her little face flushed to the point of spilling blood, and she dared not look at me. I bent down and kissed away the bashfulness at the corner of her eye. Wife, we should rest now. My voice was hoarse beyond belief. She softly uttered like a lamb awaiting the slaughter. I wrapped my arms around her waist and carried her toward the bed strewn with rose petals. A night of romantic abandon, the room filled with spring. Married life was simple and sweet. I became a complete house husband. My greatest daily pleasure was studying recipes and cooking delicious meals for my wife. Sophia, on the other hand, displayed astonishing talent in her career. She was no longer the girl who followed me needing my protection. She became a capable, formidable woman who ran the company with perfect order. Many people said she was the woman behind me, but I knew I was the man standing behind her. A year later, Sophia gave birth to a lovely daughter. I named her Mia Johnson. The birth of our daughter added even more laughter and joy to our lives. I became utterly devoted to my daughter, holding my little princess every day, never getting enough of kissing her. Sophia often grew jealous, saying I loved our daughter more than her. I would then pull the mother and daughter into my arms together and domineeringly declare, "You are both mine. No one gets away." She would laugh in my arms like a child. I often wondered what virtue I had accumulated in my past life to deserve such perfect happiness in this one. Perhaps it was Chloe's blessing. Perhaps it was heaven's mercy. But more than anything, it was the woman beside me whom I was willing to love and protect for a lifetime. At sunset, I held our daughter, Sophia, nestled against me, while Machi and Bubbles chased and played on the lawn. Time was gentle and the present peaceful. I think this is probably the most beautiful form of happiness.